The truth behind the 74% plastic headline: where does India stand? Imagine you are standing at a tea stall in the morning. There is a small teacup in your hand, a biscuit wrapper lying nearby, and a headline flashes on your mobile screen. China and America together produce 74% of the world's plastic. At first glance, this headline scares you. It feels as if the entire plastic problem of the world is just because of two countries, as if the rest of the countries are merely spectators to this crisis. But the fear does not end here. The real fear begins when you open the original research paper, and the story turns out to be a bit different. The numbers are indeed about plastic, the crisis is also real, but the twist hidden in the headline is very big. The curiosity is that, if the 74% claim is not completely correct, then what is the truth? What is the real position of China, America, and India? And can India escape this crisis even by producing less plastic? An analysis published on the global plastic supply chain of the year 2022 shows that the world produced around 400 million tons of plastic. This is not a small number. This is the complete picture of our modern lifestyle. In this plastic, some part came from recycled material, but a very large part was virgin plastic, meaning new plastic, which is mainly made from fossil fuel-based feedstocks. This very thing connects this story from the environment to climate. Now understand the biggest correction. According to the original data, China was leading in plastic production with a share of around 32%. America's share was around 14%, and India's share was stated to be around 5%. That means China and America together were not producing 74% of the plastic. The combined production share of both was around 46%. Therefore, the 74% headline is explosive to hear, but falls weak in a fact check. But this does not mean that the crisis is small. On the contrary, the real story becomes even more serious, because the matter of plastic is not as simple as who makes how much. In the world of plastic, production is a different thing, consumption is a different thing, waste generation is a different thing, and waste management is a completely different battle. Some country produces more, some buys more, some uses more, and some generates the most waste. If we talk about consumption, China is the world's largest plastic consumer. It uses around 20% of the global plastic supply. Its massive manufacturing economy and huge population make it the center of plastic demand. America comes in second place in total consumption. Its share is around 18%. But when it comes to per-person plastic consumption, America appears way ahead. This is the most interesting twist in the data. In America, the per capita plastic consumption was stated to be around 216 kilograms per person, meaning the amount of plastic in an average American lifestyle is very high. In Japan, this number was stated to be around 129 kilograms per person, and in the European Union, around 86 kilograms per person. Now, India's story is different because India's population is huge, but the per-person plastic use is not as much as developed countries. India holds around a 6% share in total consumption. This means India uses plastic, but is still well below the per capita lifestyle of the developed world. This very difference makes India's position unique. Now come toward waste, because that is where the real blow lands. In the year 2022, around 268 million tons of plastic waste was generated in the world. This waste is of those things whose use has ended and which have become a burden on the system. China generated the most plastic waste, around 81 million tons. This is the result of its production, consumption, and population scale. Such a big industrial system naturally creates huge waste as well. America generated around 40 million tons of plastic waste. But here, the concern goes beyond quantity to the lifestyle pattern as well, because both per-person waste and consumption are very high. The plastic waste of the European Union was around 30 million tons. That means rich economies do not just use plastic, they also struggle with the big questions of plastic waste management. India's plastic waste was stated to be around 9.48 million tons. In a global comparison, this looks less than China and America, but for India, this number is still very big. From here, India's real challenge begins. A lower global share does not mean the problem is small. In India, plastic waste at many places remains dependent on collection systems, segregation, and informal recycling. In a city, if a bottle gets collected separately, it can go into the recycling chain. But items like chips packets, multi-layer wrappers, and sachets often reach drains, landfills, or the open environment. This very small plastic appears to be the most dangerous. It is small in size but very high in volume. A wrapper coming out of a single household looks harmless on its own, but wrappers coming out of crores of homes can block an entire river. The biggest strength of plastic becomes its biggest weakness. It is cheap, lightweight, waterproof, durable, and therefore every business likes it. Milk packets, shampoo sachets, biscuit wrappers, online delivery packaging, medical supplies, car parts, mobile covers, wire coating, water bottles, plastic has blended into our lives so much that removing it suddenly is practically not easy. The packaging sector is the largest consumer because plastic packaging protects the product, makes transport easy, and keeps the cost low. Because of this reason, companies are not able to get out of plastic quickly. But the problem is that the life of packaging is very short. The product reaches home, the packet opens, and a few seconds later, that same plastic becomes waste. A bottle might get reused or recycled, but thin wrappers and mixed material packaging often create difficulties. This is the very plastic that slips away from the grip of the waste management system. Now understand the fossil fuel angle. Plastic is not just a garbage problem. Its connection is also with oil, gas, and coal. A large part of virgin plastic production comes from fossil fuel-based feedstocks. This means when the world produces plastic, it is not just producing a material, it is also pushing forward the energy system, petrochemical industry, and climate pressure. That is why the debate on plastic pollution cannot remain limited only to the dustbin. It is the story of an entire chain spread across refineries, factories, packaging designs, consumer habits, and waste processing. Recycling is often shown like a magic solution, as if just putting plastic in a bin will save the planet. But in the real world, recycling is not that simple. Not every plastic gets recycled. Not every recycled plastic is economically viable. And not every city has such a facility that can process mixed plastic in the right way. The state of global recycling does not look very strong in the study either. The world produces plastic very fast, but the speed of bringing it back into the circular economy is quite slow. Even in a developed country like America, the plastic recycling rate was stated to be very low. This shows that despite having money and technology, the system does not become perfect on its own. China has chosen the big path of incineration in waste management. This can reduce landfill pressure, but incineration is also a sensitive issue connected to air pollution, emissions, and technology control. Japan is also an example of an incineration-heavy model. The system there is organized, but the question still remains whether burning plastic can be a long-term sustainable answer. Europe has put more emphasis on recycling, regulation, and waste tracking, but even there, the complexity of plastic waste trade and disposal is no less. The chain of plastic moves out of borders. Now come into global politics. The world is trying to create a legally binding treaty on plastic pollution. But the biggest fight among countries is whether production should be reduced or only waste management should be improved. Some countries say that until new plastic production is controlled, recycling alone cannot stop the crisis. On the other side, countries with petrochemical interests look at a production cap like an economic threat. This is the reason why global plastic treaty negotiations have been repeatedly getting stuck in difficulty. Everyone wants to end plastic pollution, but consensus is not formed on the path. For India, this debate is very important, because India does not consume as much per capita plastic as developed countries right now, but its population and fast-growing consumer market can make future demand very big. If India does not work on circular design, proper collection, and alternatives from now on, then today's 5% production share can become a big environmental burden in the times to come. India put a ban on several identified items of single-use plastic. This was a signal that the government wants to stop certain products whose utility is low and littering potential is high. But as strong as the ban looks on paper, its result on the ground depends on enforcement. If banned items keep getting easily found in the market, the fear of the rule slowly ends. EPR, meaning Extended Producer Responsibility, is an attempt to fill this very gap. Its simple meaning is that the company which puts plastic packaging into the market will also have to take the responsibility for its waste management. This thinking is in the right direction, because if profit comes from packaging, then the responsibility should also go up to the waste of the packaging. Otherwise, the cost shifts onto society and the environment. But India's biggest strength is also its informal recycling network. Waste pickers, scrap dealers, small recyclers, and local aggregators are the backbone of plastic recovery in many cities. The problem is that they often do not get respect, safety, and a stable income, whereas these are the very people who bring plastic back into the economy before it goes into the landfill. If India wants to make the plastic crisis an opportunity, then waste pickers must not be left invisible. They will have to be connected with the formal system, health safety, and better pricing. Now look at the picture at the household level. If wet waste and dry waste are not separated in the house, then the quality of plastic will get spoiled. Plastic mixed with wet garbage becomes a weak material for the recycling chain. This very small work can change a big chain. If dry plastic remains clean, remains collected and reaches the right channel, then its chance of going into recycling or upcycling increases instead of the landfill. Businesses will also have to redesign packaging. Just writing recyclable does not solve the problem. Packaging should truly be collectible, sortable, and recyclable. The consumer will also have to understand that a cheap product often comes with a hidden environmental cost. The packet that gives us convenience can later become the trouble of city drainage and landfills. India has a balanced path ahead of it. Ignoring plastic by completely making it a villain is not practical because it has an important role in healthcare, food safety, and transport. But letting plastic run without responsibility is also dangerous. The real path is, where it is necessary, let plastic remain. Where it is avoidable, let an alternative come. And where it becomes waste, let the recovery system be strong. The biggest twist of this story is that even though the 74% headline turned out to be wrong, the plastic crisis is completely true. Sometimes a wrong headline also leads to the right question. The question is not how big of culprits China and America are. The question is how honestly every country takes responsibility for its lifestyle, industry, and waste system. America will have to think about per capita consumption. China will have to create a balance on production and its incineration-heavy waste path. Europe will have to work on trade and consumption responsibility. India still has an opportunity. It is at that stage where plastic use is increasing, but there is still room left to turn the system in the right direction. If India connects segregation, recycling infrastructure, producer responsibility, and public awareness together, then it can become a smart leader in the plastic crisis, not a late follower. But if we accept sachets, wrappers, and disposable culture as normal, then in the coming years, drains, rivers, and landfills will extract the real price of this convenience. Today, plastic has not remained just an environmental topic. It has become a combined story of economy, trade, lifestyle, climate, and governance. Therefore, next time when you take a water bottle, chips packet, or delivery packaging in your hand, just think this much: for how long is this thing of use to me, and for how many years will its impact remain on the planet? Because the real story of plastic begins in the factory, passes through the market, comes to our house, hides in the dustbin, and then speaks its truth in the environment. And India's situation says exactly this. We are not the largest producer right now, but if we do not correct the system in time, then tomorrow we might certainly stand among the biggest sufferers.
If this video has taught you something new, or if you feel this information should reach more people, don't forget to like and share the video. Your small share can become valuable and useful information for someone else. If you have any questions related to this topic, or if you would like to share your opinion with us, be sure to write in the comment box. We read every question and suggestion from you, because your feedback inspires us to create better content. And if you want to keep receiving such interesting and reliable information about business, the economy, and the world in the future, then don't forget to subscribe to our channel GRT Business and also press the bell icon so that you get notifications of every new video directly. At GRT Business, we always strive to provide you with accurate, balanced, and reliable information. Our news and analysis are prepared based on information obtained from various news agencies, public sources, and public opinion. We make every effort to verify and validate each fact as much as possible. But in case of any possible error or dispute, the responsibility lies with the respective sources. Our only aim is to present you with a correct and trustworthy perspective so that you can understand any topic better.